Women's Economic Empowerment Summit. Can everyone please give a warm welcome to Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen?
欢迎大家参与2019女力经济赋权高峰会，请大家热烈掌声欢迎总统蔡英文、外交部政务次长谢武桥、经济部政务次长王美花、国安会秘书长李大为入场。
Welcome everyone to the 2019 Women's Economic Empowerment Summit. Thank you all very much for coming, and thank you to the speakers of today's event. Today's summit is co-organized by AIT, Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Taiwan's Small and Medium Enterprise Administration, and the Taiwan Design Center as part of the U.S.-Taiwan SME Work Plan.
欢迎大家参与2019女力经济赋权高峰会。这也是台美中小企业工作计划的一环。特别感谢今日与会的讲者。本日高峰会由美国在台协会、外交部、经济部中小企业处、台湾创意设计中心、台湾金融研训院共同主办。
Today's summit also brings together representatives from 20 countries throughout the Indo-Pacific as part of the Global Cooperation and Training Framework. Our goal at the end of the day is that everyone leaves feeling empowered and connected to one another.
本日高峰会亦透过台美全球合作与训练架构，邀请印太区域共20个国家代表与会。本高峰会目标是期望在座每位嘉宾在活动结束后，能带回高峰会的热情与能量。
We have a very busy day today, so we will attempt to be very strict with time. So I encourage everyone to arrive early to their sessions, and we also ask all the moderators and speakers to be strict with time. And lunch will be served after our morning activities.
今日高峰会行程非常紧凑，我们将严格的掌控时间流程，也请各场主持人与与谈者一起达成时间目标。
So without further ado, we would like to ask AIT Director Brent Christensen to please take the stage to make some remarks to open the summit. Director Christensen.
现在我们邀请美国在台协会处长厉英杰上台致辞，请大家热烈给予掌声。
President Tsai, Chairwoman Johnson, Minister of Economic Affairs Shun, Minister of Foreign Affairs Wu, Legislator Yu, distinguished speakers, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, Zawan. It is great to see you all here. Before I begin, I want to share a short story with you. Just outside my office at AIT are the photos of all the previous AIT directors. I think there are about 13 of them. Ever since we started planning for this summit with our Taiwan partners, when I pass by these photos, I cannot help but notice that so far, all of the AIT directors have been men. But I believe that one day soon, we will have a woman AIT director. But for now, I guess you're stuck with me. Taiwan, of course, is inspiring the world with its first women president. Madam President, in my view, you are the role model not only here in Taiwan, but around the world. The United States could not ask for a closer partner and friend as President of Taiwan. It is a real pleasure to help kick off this important summit on women's economic empowerment. We have representatives from over 15 countries gathered here today, as well as some of the world's leading women in government, the private sector, civil society, and academia. All of you are not only trailblazers, but also role models. As many of you know, this year marks the 40th anniversary of the Taiwan Relations Act and the creation of the American Institute in Taiwan. We have in town this week 25 senior-level current and former U.S. government officials to celebrate AIT's birthday. Yesterday at our new office compound in Nehu, President Tsai joined us for a ceremony to celebrate the last 40 years of the U.S.-Taiwan relationship. Today, at this summit, we are looking at the next 40 years of our relationship. The United States government recently launched the Women's Global Development and Prosperity, or WGDP, initiative. This large-scale effort is based on a very simple premise. Empowering women is critical not only to economic prosperity, but to global peace. Research from the World Bank makes clear that the more women are excluded from the economy, the more likely that country will be involved in conflict and will respond to a threat with more violence. But conversely, when women are empowered, they bring national stability. It is for this reason that the United States National Security Strategy recognizes the critical role of women in achieving global peace and prosperity. From our experience in the United States, and of course here in Taiwan, I can state unequivocally that empowering women is not just about social equality, it is about smart economics and smart geopolitics. To highlight the importance of women entrepreneurship in particular, last year's Global Entrepreneurship Summit in Hyderabad, India, brought together close to 1,500 of the world's top women entrepreneurs. And today's summit is the only event in East Asia to mark the road to this year's Global Entrepreneurship Summit in the Netherlands. Taiwan has been one of the world's most active participants in promoting global entrepreneurship, including by co-hosting with us last November the Global Entrepreneurship Congress dedicated to using artificial intelligence and technology for social good. Taiwan is a leader in East Asia when it comes to empowering women, and we are proud to call it one of our closest partners in this important area. In APEC, the United States and Taiwan work together to empower women throughout the Indo-Pacific region. The United States Overseas Private Investment Corporation and the Taiwan Development Authorities are working together to ensure our development projects put women first. Today's summit launches a multi-day workshop this week under the Global Cooperation and Training Framework on Women's Economic Empowerment for public and private sector participants from throughout the region. And this summit is taking place as part of the Small and Medium Enterprise Work Plan between the U.S. Small Business Administration and the Taiwan authorities under the auspices of AIT and our counterpart organization in Washington, TECRO. But we don't want to stop there. That is why I'm very pleased to announce today, for the first time, 2 new initiatives we are launching with our public and private sector partners from Taiwan, both of which will make empowering women a central priority. The first initiative is called Startups. This is a joint project between the State Department's Office of Global Partnerships, USAID, the U.S. Small Business Administration, the U.S. Overseas Private Investment Corporation, multiple Taiwan ministries, Legislator Karen Yu's office, and the private sector on both sides, including Taiwan's AppWorks and Meet Taipei. The goal of Smart Ops is simple. With Taiwan, we want to go south together. Taiwan is quickly emerging as a gateway into Southeast Asia, which has the fastest growing digital economy of anywhere in the world. Through startups, we hope to integrate the innovative startup ecosystems of the United States, Taiwan, and Southeast Asia, while empowering women entrepreneurs everywhere. The second initiative is called the Talent Circulation Alliance. Much of Taiwan's industry was established by young people going to study and work in the United States. These talented individuals then came back to Taiwan to found or work for some of Taiwan's most successful global companies. The Talent Circulation Alliance seeks to recreate this story for the digital age. The answer to the challenge of brain drain is clear. Promote brain circulation among like-minded economies. We intend to work together with the public and private sectors, academia, research labs, non-governmental organizations, and others to facilitate a steady flow of circulation of talent between all of our economies. The circulation of talent between Taiwan and its like-minded partners, like the United States, will create the connective tissue to ensure its future always remains tightly or closely tied with the free and open Indo-Pacific. We look forward to working closely with our Taiwan partners to deepen our cooperation aimed at empowering women around the world. As I have said over the last few days, the U.S.-Taiwan relationship is constantly growing and evolving and has never been more important. And one of the important reasons for this is all of the great work we are doing together for women. In closing, I would like to thank not just the President, her ministers and other senior ranking officials who usually get all of the credit for events such as this, deservedly of course, but to also extend my heartfelt thanks to all of the unsung heroines at the Ministry of Economic Affairs, Small and Medium Enterprise Administration, the Taiwan Design Center, the Taiwan Academy of Banking and Finance, the Sun Yat-sen Education Foundation, and of course AIT, who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes to put this event together. Without their often invisible work, none of us would be here today. So instead of clapping for me, let's give them all a big round of applause. Thank you very much.
谢谢李处长。处长，
Thank you for setting the stage for today's activities. Next up, we have Deputy Minister of Economic Affairs Wang Meihua to make some opening remarks. Deputy Minister.
现在我们邀请经济部政务次长王美花上台致辞。
The President Tsai, the AIT Director Christensen, National Security Council Secretary General Lee, Deputy Foreign Minister Xie, the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As one of the hosts, I would like to express my warmest welcome to all of you for being here with us. It has been my honor and pleasure as well. You all know in 2011, APEC strengthens its determination to support women economic empowerment in the San Francisco Declaration on Women and the Economic through 5 pillars, including access to capital, access to markets, skill and capability building, women leadership, as well as access to innovation and technology. These pillars aim at enhancing the economic participation of women and were greatly supported by APEC economic leaders. Of course, Taiwan is quite supportive about this issue. So concerning about Taiwan situation, according to Taiwan 2018 white paper on small and medium enterprises, the number of registered female business owners in Taiwan has reached 530,000. That accounting for just over 36%, which means more than 1/3 of the business women in Taiwan are female. I wonder which country are higher than Taiwan. In order to support more women to start their own business, several government agencies, including the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Ministry of Labor, have progressed efforts in creating a sound and equal environment for the women-led startup and women's employment. For example, in terms of fundings, we provide exclusive venture loans for women, as well as financing guarantees for women-led enterprises. In addition, we have partnered with the Facebook through the Xumin's Business Project to offer digital marketing courses for women entrepreneurs. Also, we've set up the Taiwan Women's Business Network website to help women-led business go global. Looking ahead, we will partner with large international firms such as Microsoft, Google, to build up women-led enterprises, marketing, and sales capability, as well as their technology application capability. That's very important especially in this digital era. We are proud to let you know that one of our female entrepreneurs, Ms. Viola Chen, the founder of Good Food Enterprises, was named of Forbes magazine's 30 Under 30 Asia list last year. The social enterprises prefers hiring disadvantaged women and uses 30% of their revenues in helping vulnerable groups and solving social problems. Ms. Chen is now the mentor of the She Means Business project, and she will continue to help more women to start their business. Taiwan actively promoting the economic and empower of the women and the development of social innovation enterprises through a broad range of policies and measures. Our aim is that the opportunities created by economic diversification and inclusive growth will benefit all citizens. These efforts have been paying off last year. For instance, Taiwan was classified as a super innovator by the World Economic Forum in its Global Competitiveness Report for 2018. So today, I would like to thank our cross-partner, the American Institute in Taiwan, the AIT, for joining us in organizing this great event that brings together policymakers, industry experts, scholars, and women leaders across the Indo-Pacific region. It's our honor to host such an event aimed at promoting international cooperation and exchanging views on economic empowering women in the region. It's also our pleasure to have the chance to share our experience and our achievements in enhancing the women's economic participation and female leadership. And we are great to have the chance to let the world know there are many outstanding women enterprises in Taiwan. Of course, have the outstanding president in Taiwan. So in closing, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all those who make today's summit possible. And with the joint effort of the public and private sectors, we can open up more chances for women-led companies in Taiwan. Lastly, I wish you all fruitful and productive deliberation. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Deputy Minister Wong, we appreciate all that your team has done to help organize today's summit.
谢谢次长与经济部的团队主办今日高峰会的活动。次长，请回座。
And finally, it is our distinct honor to welcome Taiwan's first woman president and a role model for all of us, President Tsai Ing-wen. President Tsai, please take the stage.
最后，我们很荣幸邀请台湾首位女总统，也是我们旅的标杆典范蔡英文总统上台致辞。
Thank you. Good morning. I want to thank those who made today's event possible. Director Brian Christensen and Deputy Minister Wang and Deputy Minister Xie of Foreign Affairs Ministry, and those who work behind the scenes to bring together so many outstanding women leaders from home and abroad. The energy of this crowd reminds me of my trip to the Marshall Islands last month. I was invited to attend the first Pacific Women Leaders Coalition Conference, where we discussed how to work together to support women and help them unleash their unlimited potentials. In fact, in this ever-changing world, mutual support is exactly the spirit that we need to tackle global issues together. So, over the past 3 years, my administration has been working to increase our engagement with other like-minded countries, including through the Global Cooperation and Training Framework, that is GCTF. And we made sure that women empowerment would be one of the major focuses of GCTF, because we believe that when more women are able to pursue their aspirations, our countries become more prosperous and our region more stable. So today, I am pleased to see that we are joined by legislators from both Taiwan and the US, especially Congresswoman Eddie Bernie Johnson, who is here with us, and legislator Karen Yu. I am also delighted to see Jan Nishida, Principal Deputy Assistant Administrator of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Welcome back to Taiwan. I remember during last year's Yusan Forum, you talked about Taiwan's environmental transformation since the time you lived here as a child. I trust that you have also seen our determination to promote gender equality in this region. My platform as a female president means I have a duty to push for women's empowerment at home and abroad. And I will not stop until the term female president is a thing of the past. So, since I came to office, my government has been working tirelessly to create an environment where women can grow, succeed, and pursue their dreams, dreams that the previous generation could not have imagined. Last month, Taiwan's Navy swore in its second female captain. We trained outstanding female fighter pilots. And many women are excelling in sectors traditionally dominated by men. In politics, women now account for nearly 40% of legislators and mayors in Taiwan. Our younger generation is also making waves. Last year, 4 Taiwanese women made the Forbes magazine 30 Under 30 Asia list. They are entrepreneurs, artists, scientists, and venture capitalists. And our efforts have been recognized. In this year's Women, Business, and the Law report by the World Bank, Taiwan scored 91.25, the best performance in Asia. Taiwan is also one of only 6 countries in the world that has eliminated all job restrictions for women. But women are more than just numbers on paper. They are the lifeblood of our economy, the backbones of our society. That is why we want to encourage more women to start businesses and to create a work environment where they feel seen and supported. As a regional leader in women's empowerment, we are connecting women to the resources they need to turn their ideas into reality in Taiwan and around the world. And we are ready, willing, and able to work with like-minded friends like you are to achieve true global gender equality. And channels like GCTF are a great way to come together and compare what works and what doesn't. But our work won't end today because women's empowerment requires constant dialogue and cooperation to create lasting progress. Next month, AIT will be co-hosting an event on women leadership. And I heard that they have a great lineup of speakers and activities planned. So I hope to see you all there as well. And I look forward to finding even more opportunities to collaborate on women's rights and gender equality. And I want to end with a quote from a woman who never believed in limitations. Helen Keller once said, quote, "Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much," unquote. There's no limit to what we can achieve when we come together like we have today. So let's get to work and make the world a better place for women everywhere. Thank you.
And Tsai for those outstanding remarks. please remain on the stage for the group photo.
非常感谢蔡总统为我们带来这么精彩的致辞，总统请留步。
We would now like to call to the stage to join President Tsai. Once again, AIT Director Brent Christensen, please come to the stage. Chairwoman of the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, Representative Eddie Bernice Johnson, please come to the stage.
有请外交部政务次长谢武桥，有请经济部政务次长王美花，有请国安会秘书长李大为一同上台合影。
Okay, please smile for the cameras.
请台下记者、媒体朋友掌握时间。
Now, please give a thumbs up for the cameras. John, Taiwan style.
请台上贵宾一起为我们台湾女力比个赞，留下这荣耀的时刻。
Okay, thank you. So everyone, please remain on the stage. We will now take a large group photo. Can all of the moderators and speakers at today's summit please come to the stage all at once? All of the moderators and speakers, please come to the stage and join President Tsai for the large group photo.
请总统与台上贵宾留步。现在我们将邀请所有高峰会的主持人、讲者与贵宾上台一起合影。
So coming to the stage now, we have former Goldman Sachs partner and now professor Shirley Lin, U.S. EPA Principal Deputy Administrator Jane Nishida, Ginny May, Acting President and Chief Operating Officer Maren Casper, U.S. Small Business Administration Senior Advisor Eugene Cornelius, International Council Small Business Senior Vice President Winslow Sargent, Microsoft Operations Assistant General Counsel Mary Jo Shad, Uber Asia Pacific Head of Legal Katrina Johnson, Bloomberg Senior International Editor Jody Schneider, U.S. Overseas Private Investment Corporation Managing Director for Global Women's Issues Catherine Kaufman, Facebook Taiwan's Public Policy Manager Max Chen.
台积电财务长何立梅、立法委员余婉如、经济部中小企业处处长何进仓、国家发展委员会综合规划处处长张慧娟、财团法人台湾创意设计中心董事长张基义、Xworth 经营合伙人刘光荣、CMI 国际半导体产业协会全球行销长暨台湾区总裁曹世伦。CMI 国际半导体产业协会女力科技代表尤翠龙，循环台湾基金会执行长陈慧玲，民视主播陈淑贞 ，GSK 公共事务暨策略规划处处长黄婉清，联合报愿景工程总监梁玉芳，易福生医共同创办人蔡恩嘉，中山管理教育基金会秘书长曾山慧，台北科技教育大学教授陶小月，国立政治大学教授杜文玲，经济部中小企业处副处长吴贝蒂，财团法人台湾创业设计中心执行长宋同正。
Boy, there's a lot of you. Okay, so now can we have everyone please smile for the cameras?
请掌望贵宾看向前方，媒体朋友。
And now can everyone please give a thumbs up for the cameras?
接下来要邀请所有的与会贵宾再次为我们国际女力比个赞。这是我们台湾的 style， 也是国际的 style。
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. You can all, everyone, please stay on the stage until President Tsai leaves. Please stay on the stage until President Tsai leaves.
再次感谢总统与台上的贵宾，也请合影的贵宾在台上稍待。总统因为公务繁忙，需先行离席会场。那我们用最热烈的掌声，给在台上的所有的贵宾一个鼓励。今日非常难得，我们可以邀请到蔡总统莅临这个会场，给我们这么大的支持与鼓励。好，请各位贵宾再次热烈掌声，恭迎蔡总统。
Okay, thank you again, President Tsai. Thank you once again for coming and joining us. Everyone can now retake your seats. Thank you, everyone. You can take your seats.
也请合影的台上贵宾会坐。 请美国众议员在台上留步。请工作同仁协助颁奖台。请我们的工作同仁协助颁奖台。
Next, it is our distinct honor to welcome to the stage Chairwoman of the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, Representative Eddie Bernice Johnson. Representative Johnson is a longtime friend of Taiwan and a tireless advocate for women around the world. Representative Johnson.
接下来，我们很荣幸邀请到美国众议院科学科技委员会主席众议员 Eddie Bernice Johnson。他长期是台湾之友，不遗余力的支持女力，为我们进行专题分享，请大家给予热烈的掌声鼓励。
Thank you very much, and good morning.
Good morning.
This is starting out to be a great day. Let me acknowledge the warm president, the first woman president of Taiwan, is someone that I've known a number of years, and I'm very, very proud to see her in that position. Actually, she is the first woman president, not the first one I've known, but the first one that I came to enjoy her inauguration after having noticed the campaign and her leadership of the past. And I'm very proud that Taiwan is showing great leadership and great respect for women. So you couldn't have a better opening speaker this morning than the president. For many years, I have made trips to Taiwan and has enjoyed getting to know such a progressive country, and have many Taiwanese Americans living in my area of Dallas, Texas, where I represent, that show leadership. As a matter of fact, about almost 40, but not quite 40 years ago, I organized the first Asian Chamber of Commerce in Dallas, and there were about 8 or 10 men that were the charter members. Well, I can tell you that there are hundreds now that are men and women that have had a woman president, and that has gone really worldwide. So they have a federation. And just week before last, the Federation of Women Business, Chinese business women, had their international conference in Dallas, and it's really very noticeable to see the brightness and the leadership of women that are available, that are making themselves leaders in the economic engine of the world. We are really actually being led by women who feel confident, that don't mind taking a chance, that are also well endowed with the abilities and the education to do so. This is really our day. I remember years ago when I started my first business, the person that inspired me the most was a woman who went into business upon her retirement from a regular job. And her name was Mary Kay, who started Mary Kay Cosmetics and has empowered women around the world with individual sales, and became a member of my finance committee when I was in the State House many years ago. And then I've seen young women, not yet 12 years old, come up with ideas to start businesses by weaving and starting with lemonade stands. And so it's not unusual that we've had women of all ages to lead by example. But now the world actually depends on us, because we've gotten this far with only half of our brain power, by men pretty much taking the lead. But now It is not so much whether it's just a gender thing, it's a necessity. We need the brain power. We need women who are thinking innovatively. And who is better equipped than women who can run a household and hold a job at the same time? And so, no issues are more vivid around the world than those relate to women issues. So gender equality is a very important in promoting economic prosperity and economic opportunity and growth. Mainly because many ideas that come up for businesses are really developed out of experiences, personal experiences. And because women have had so many various jobs, much more varied than the other gender, that we are in a position to be the innovators, to come up with the creative ideas. And we now, as it seems at this conference especially, have the assistance and support of major businesses. We've always found it difficult for financial support. And being a minority woman going into business many years, I can write you a book on that. But I think we see that things are changing because we got women handling much of that business. And that is important. And so it is clear that this is a very forward conference, and I applaud AIT for being the leader in putting it together. The organization that has helped with the relationships between Taiwan and the United States has been a very, very important one. And I'm so pleased to be here to celebrate that 40th anniversary and the new facility that is here. That facility is great, but you know, it's not just that facility, it's the people that run that organization that are available to you, that are helping us to cement our relationships that are much more important than that gorgeous facility that they now occupy. The first step, however, to addressing issues to become engaged in with active, creative activities and ideas is for women just to have the courage to decide to do it. Empowering each other is also very important. Sharing, as you are doing here today, because we are both all searching always for ways to break barriers for women and working to develop and to encourage our girls and young women to pursue employment and entrepreneurship and innovation. We have seen hidden figures that no longer need to be hidden. And we feel that there are so many young women, older women, middle-aged women that have been holding ideas over the years and never explored the opportunities to make them come to fruition. Well, today is that day. It is time for us to encourage each other, to share with each other, talk about the problems you're having and the opportunities, because you educate and others get educated. And many of the things that we've experienced as women and handicaps that we can identify as stumbling blocks, sometimes it's really just politics. And that is really why I have tried to work with women around the world to take on leadership positions, because since I've been in Congress and had the opportunity to travel around the world, what I have noticed is that women are being forced into leadership positions because many men are killed at war. And every woman that I've met around the world is seeking peace and wanting to do something about it. And so I think that's worth merit, because many of the trials and tribulations that women suffer come really after there's been war in their areas, and they've had to take on more responsibility because now their husbands are no longer present. But you don't have to wait for that kind of situation for ideas that you have. You actually can take the step, share with each other, develop the courage to take a chance, because we have come this far throughout the world with only about half of our brain power. Can you just imagine what it would be like if we had the opportunity to experience all of the brain power present in the world and working together and developing innovations and going into the fields that will help us reach the next level throughout the world? This is your opportunity. And I just imagine that every woman here has already felt that. But we know that much of it depends on just having the courage to express the interest, to share the idea, and to find someone that will give you that first support that you need. So it is my sincere hope that this week's discussions will be a catalyst to further discuss women's economic empowerment and the meaning of that empowerment for the rest of the world. Women, in short, can bring a unique perspective to all issues, because we have been heads of a household management of children's lives, and many times working outside the home at the same time. And so we have been disproportionately affected by gender equality, because it was always expected that the men make most of those decisions as relates to business management, not really recognizing that women manage the home all the time. And nothing is more important than managing a household. And so it is time now that we open all of our minds, whether they're male or female, and say, it's our day to lead and to be a part of the leadership of the economic wave and the economic future of this world. I want to applaud people who've come here from other areas, and I hope that you will spend the time having a conversation with other creative minds, because that's how we get creative ideas. And that's why we can determine what opportunities it might be available. I'm happy to see the Small Business Administration from the United States present. We have had some success with women business, much more success with men business, but they've been sensitized. And we are hoping that we will see even more of that. We've also seen a great deal of sensitivity with many of our leading companies like Microsoft, with ideas and accepting talents no matter what gender. And so the actual opportunities now are with us. And I'm hoping that you can understand and see that we are acknowledging talents from everyone. We are in the age of innovation. We know that next levels are constantly being searched, and we believe very strongly that if there can be hidden figures to make it possible for a safe trip into space years ago that never got acknowledged until the last couple of years, there are hidden figures among this group and many other groups that have not been acknowledged, but the day for those figures to be hidden has come to an end. We hope that all of you will feel confident in reaching out to explore your opportunity to be a part of the economic engine for the world. The 20th century ushered so many women into leadership roles, and we must continue to build on that. I know that this president of this country is a true role model and has made a record of her courage and her leadership throughout the world. That is not to keep it just into one person. That is to say to women across the world, yes, you can. Yes, you can be a leader. Yes, you can explore. You can take chances. You don't have to be perfect. but we should be there for each other, share with each other, and I do believe that we're going to see not only major innovations, but the real credit be given to where those innovations emerged. And many times, the hidden figure is a female. So I encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity of sharing, of opening your mind to new ideas, to making sure that you can explore what your dreams might be or your imaginations, and keep remembering that you are the role models for the young people coming along as well. It's one thing to talk about women involvement. It is something else to make sure that it happens. So I believe that in many ways Taiwan is the leading edge of the women's empowerment and technology entrepreneurship throughout Asia. And I believe that we will hear more and more innovations. As a matter of fact, one of my constituents, originally from Taiwan, started a very large technology company after deciding to leave college teaching, and now has a big division here in Taiwan and South Korea, added to the one in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And that encouragement for coming back to his home country to do that has inspired his daughter to open her business right here in Taiwan, who had been born here but grew up in the United States. That's how spreading the knowledge, the experiences, and understanding what opportunities could be can influence. So I would say to you, take advantage of this wonderful opportunity. Visit with each other, share ideas. I can tell you this, that the success of my business when I was running it had to do with lots of questions and getting lots of answers, starting off very cold with not a great deal of support systems available. They really are available today. Have a good conference, and I hope that all of you can leave inspired and can inspire others. Thank you very much.
Very much, Representative Johnson, for those inspiring words. We really appreciate you coming all the way to Taiwan to help us celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Taiwan's Relations Act and to be here today at the summit.
非常感谢众议员激励人心的分享，我们衷心感谢您来到台湾，一同庆祝台美关系法40周年与今日台湾女力高峰会。
So as they get the stage ready, we'll announce the VIP panel. So just a couple of moments while they prepare the stage.
接下来是我们座谈的这个换场时间，请大家稍后。现场还没有位置的贵宾，可以到舞台的前方就坐，请工作人员协助引导。
Okay, next we will have our VIP panel discussion on the theme of how to empower women for the future. Can all of the speakers for our morning panel discussion please come to the stage? To moderate the panel, we have Professor Shirley Lin.
接下来我们将进行贵宾高峰会语谈，探讨主题为拥抱女力，迈向未来。我们邀请主持人林夏如教授。
Our panelists include U.S. EPA Principal Deputy Assistant Administrator Jane Nishida, Ginny May, Acting President and Chief Operating Officer Maren Casper, International Council of Small Business Senior Vice President Winslow Sargent, Microsoft Operations Assistant General Counsel Mary Jo Shad, Uber Asia Pacific Head of Legal Katrina Johnson, and TSMC Chief Financial Officer Laura He.
邀请美国环保署首席副助理署长、美国联邦政府全国房贷屋贷款协会代理总裁及营运长、国际中小企业联合会世界总会副理事长、微软全球助理法务长兼亚太区数位安全中心负责人、Uber 亚太区法务长及台积电财务长共同上台。
So our first panel is on how to empower women for the future. I would like to remind all of the speakers to please keep their opening remarks to around 5 minutes and their answers to questions to around 2 minutes. This will enable us to hear from everyone on a wide variety of questions. This session will end at 12:30, and I will give everyone a 15-minute notice before the session comes to an end. Professor Lin, you have the floor.
由于我们的时间非常的紧凑，所以请主持人与与会的这个与谈贵宾把握时间。那我们在会议的结束的最后15分钟会提醒大家。
Hello, everybody. It's wonderful to be here today, and 谢谢大家来参加今天的高峰会。I'm honored to be moderating today's first panel of distinguished speakers, all of whom are passionate about women's empowerment. And I've now had a chance to meet all of them and to follow our remarks by President Tsai, our first female president, and Congresswoman Johnson, also a pioneer. So right before the panel started, Laura advised me that it's very difficult to keep time for a panel of such distinguished guests, and she's been often in panels such as this one. So I'm reminded of that. That's my key job here today, to keep us on time. Now, Taiwan is an island with entrepreneurs and industrious people who want to make a difference, especially Taiwanese women. My family has lived in Taipei for 7 generations, and my grandmother was sold at age 1 in this city, not far from here, to be married to her foster family brother. But she ran away with another man who was soon conscripted to the Philippines and never to return. Illiterate and only able to speak Taiwanese, Hokkien, and neither Japanese nor Mandarin, she raised my father by selling meatballs on the street. By the time that she was my age, she already bought an apartment on Chifengjie on a very nice neighborhood in downtown Taipei and raised 2 college graduates, my aunt and my father, who went on to University of Hawaii on U.S. scholarship. This is the story of Taiwan, a country of miracles and amazing women, and as Congresswoman Johnson said, hidden figures everywhere, including many of you in the audience. My mother. When I started working as a venture capitalist and investment banker for American firms 30 years ago, there were very few women in the field. I was advised to put off having children until I was more senior. But nobody told me what that means. How many years should I be waiting? I longed to connect with other women in the firms where I worked and looked for mentors wherever I could. But it was not easy. Having achieved some success as a banker, I retired and changed careers, following my love of research and teaching. Today, as a professor, I realize that Taiwan is often talked about through the perspective of international security, as a geopolitical issue that could lead to war across the Taiwan Strait, or even between China and the United States. But we often forget Taiwan is much more than that. It is a society that successfully escaped the middle income trap to become a high-income, post-industrial, democratic, multi-ethnic, and inclusive society. At the same time, having done so, Taiwan has entered into the high-income trap, grappling with the same issues that affect many comparable societies, not only in Asia, but around the world. Again, as in the past, in some areas, Taiwan is developing best practices from which others can learn and chart its own future with distinctive values and a unique culture. exploring the problems that face middle and high-income economies and examining Taiwan's experience in addressing them is a valuable part of the global cooperation and training framework, an important cooperation initiative that will further cement Taiwan-US relations and enable Taiwan to make a contribution to the world. This conference focuses on one of those issues, the empowerment of women, the achievements that have been made and the problems that remain. Let me now introduce each of the panelists. Do not panic. I'm sure you're thinking that's another 5 more minutes Shirley is using up. No, I just want to tell you some things that you may not have noticed by clicking on the hyperlink to their very, very long and distinguished biographies. And to let you know a few things that they told me they would like you to know, which is not on the biography. Jane, the first panelist we have, is the Principal Deputy Assistant Administrator of the Office of International Tribal Affairs of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Jane lived in Taipei in the 1970s, as President Tsai just reminded us, and graduated from Taipei American School. She loves the environment and can tell you a lot about how Taiwan's environment really progressed in the last 5 decades, thankfully for all of us who live here now. Maren Casper is the acting president and COO of Ginnie Mae, responsible for all operations of its $2 trillion portfolio of mortgage-backed securities. She previously advised the Secretary at the Department of Housing and Urban Development on a broad range of housing and community development strategic priorities. Winslow Sargent is the Senior Vice President for International Council for Small Business. He has spoken widely about how economic empowerment holds the key to advance gender equality. More importantly, both he and I are parents of daughters who are studying at the University of Virginia, where I currently teach. With a PhD in electrical engineering, he has served in government for many years and is personally an active investor in small businesses. Mary Jo Schrade is the Assistant General Counsel and Regional Director of Microsoft's Digital Crime Unit Asia, based in Singapore, supervising the initiatives, programs, and strategies relating to preventing and disrupting organized cybercrime, piracy, and online tech support scams. She is also an expert on intellectual property rights. Finally, she is a proud mother of 3. Katrina Johnson is the Asia Pacific head of legal for Uber. She was previously with eBay, PayPal. Katrina was named General Counsel of the Year at the 2017 Australian Law Awards and General Counsel of the Year at the 2017 Women in Law Awards. Her team has also won numerous awards throughout the Asia Pacific region, and she is a proud mother of 2. Ms. Laura Ho is the Senior Vice President, Chief Financial Officer, and spokesperson of our very proud Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. Ms. Ho was awarded Outstanding Financial Executive for the year of 1993 by Financial Executives Institute and the Best CFO in Asia in 2018 by Institutional Investor. She was also named one of the 9 most influential women in Asian tech by Nikkei Asia Review magazine in 2018. She is a proud mother of 2, and more importantly, she will be a grandmother in just a few days. So I'd like to start by having each of the panelists speak for 5 minutes to open up this panel. We will take turns to go back and forth, but we will start here first with Jane.
Thank you. Thank you, 谢谢. First, I'd like to thank the organizers of this event, MOFA, MOEA, as well as AIT, for organizing this exciting event, and to say how honored that I am to be a panelist, but especially this morning to be acknowledged by President Tsai, who has been an inspiration, I think, not only to me, but to all of us in this room. As was pointed out by President Tsai and Shirley, our moderator, I have a passion not only for the environment, but a passion for Taiwan, because I lived here for 4 years. And what I would like to do in the next 4 minutes that I have is to talk about the role of women and the environment. We are very fortunate in the environmental field that in 1970, it was a woman, Rachel Carson, who wrote the book Silent Spring, who identified some of the environmental causes that are affecting both human health and our natural resources. And as a result of Rachel Carson's book in 1970, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency was created by President Nixon. And in 1970, the first Earth Day event, which is on April 22nd, which is coming up soon, so hopefully all of you will be out on Earth Day, was started. So again, it was a woman pioneer in the environment that created not only the Environmental Protection Agency, but also the Earth Day event that we now all celebrate annually. Unlike AIT, Brent's no longer here, but in our leadership, 40% of the EPA administrators were women, 40%. And that included Administrator Lisa Jackson, who took as a special cause women in science and STEM. So what she created under her leadership was a program that would have our women scientists, we have about 30% of our research division are women, working with schools around the country to help young girls understand the importance of STEM education and how they can advance in their career. Another woman role model at EPA was Administrator Gina McCarthy. And Gina McCarthy in 2014 came to Taiwan, was the last cabinet secretary here in Taiwan, and she launched something called the International Environmental Partnership, which was supported by MOFA, and we are partnering with Taiwan EPA. And under the IEP, or the International Environmental Partnership, I'd like to say that it was the predecessor to GCTF, and that what our role model is working to share lessons learned with countries in Asia, and to help them build capacity so they can address environmental issues that affect not only the globe, but particularly women and children. And some of those issues are mercury, air pollution, as well as children's health issues. And as a part of this International Environmental Partnership, we have a program on environmental education where we also recognize 30 under 30. And I'm proud to say that last year's winner of our award was a young woman entrepreneur in the United States that is working again with STEM with women in juvenile detention centers to help them when they get out of their detention to be entrepreneurs in the environment. Having said all this, I want to end with this note, in that we are very fortunate to be on this stage today to talk about our successes in terms of women empowerment. But the vast majority of women around the world are the ones that have to carry the water to serve their families, or they are the nurturers who are the foresters who go out for the food, or they're the ones who have to cook in polluted areas. And it is our role, I think, is not to only empower women here in terms of economic development, but also to empower the less powerful in terms of women around the world who unfortunately are the ones who are the truly hidden figures in our society. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you very much. Is this on? No.
Yes.
Oh, it is? Okay. I am very fortunate to live in a country that is so supportive of women's economic and social empowerment. Even more so, I'm very proud to represent this administration who continues to be very dedicated to women's efforts and women's empowerment around the world. That's a trait that we share with Taiwan. This continues to be a priority for us in many of our initiatives, particularly around STEM. And even as we speak, Ivanka Trump is delivering on her initiative of WGDP in Africa today. As it relates to my work at Ginnie Mae, I'm proud to say I'm the first woman to lead our agency. We are a $2 trillion portfolio of a global security that's traded around the world. And the fact that I'm our first woman is not something that's lost on me. In the United States, policymakers continue to promote homeownership, particularly for women. We are encouraged to see that this statistic continues to climb higher. We think this is really so important because this is a way for women to build their wealth and financial security. And we think that's also a trait we share with Taiwan. It's my honor to lead an agency that's so integral to home ownership. What we do and all of the work that we do every day enables more and more women to own homes, enables first-time home ownership for women in our country. This is why we're so thankful to Taiwan for our strong partnership and their support of our program. These relationships that we have here in the country have never been more important and something that I value personally. At the end of the day, I'm proud to be a woman in government and in business in America. And I remain committed to supporting women around the world, particularly at events like this, where we can afford the same opportunities here in Taiwan, in Southeast Asia, and particularly the same ones that have been afforded to me in America. So I'm proud to do my part and proud to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Maren.
Good morning. I'm so pleased to be here. I am an ally. As you can tell, I'm not a woman, but but as was pointed out, my daughter will soon be a graduate of the University of Virginia, and I can see in her what are some of the potential that she will have because she also seeks to be an entrepreneur. My background is that I'm the Senior Vice President for Partnership with the International Council for Small Business. And you might ask, well, what does that have to do with entrepreneurship or women empowerment? Well, let me tell you, we had our World Congress in June of 2018 right in Taipei, just a few yards from here. And we put on a forum that focused on women economic empowerment, but the focus was on high growth small businesses because it's not just enough to start a business. As you know, it's about growth. And here are the numbers. We know that the workforce is made up of 40% of women. That means that there's growth because 1 in 2 you should have at least 50% businesses should be run by women or should be active within the workforce. And so there's room to grow. And so what we wanted to do was to bring together women, especially from Malaysia, from Singapore, from New Zealand, and they shared best practices on what could be done to really help women economic empowerment. And some of the things that were pointed out were networks. We know that when you want to seek capital to fund your business, it's about the relationships you have. And many times, it's hard for women are locked out of those relationships. So when you seek to get capital to fund your business, that capital isn't there. So how do we break those down? And so what the ICSB has done, we put together a journal. We put together a journal of small business management on a topic of high growth women entrepreneurship. I encourage each one of you to get this journal because it's led by women. One in particular is Dr. Patricia Green. She's the 18th Women Business Bureau leader at the Department of Labor, and she's put together best practices on what can be done to break into some of these networks. We also have a leader in Donna Kelly. She's a professor at Babson. She's also put together some of the tactics that you need to know that it's not just to focus on a small business, but also look at some of the businesses that will grow. The great thing that we have in terms of the fourth industrial revolution is that we know that technology can be a game changer. We also know that knowledge is not localized to any gender, right? Brains are scattered everywhere. And so this is an opportunity for women and for men like myself who should be allies with you to come together to support you. The benefit we have is that we grow the economy, we create jobs, we add to sustainability. One of the Sustainable Development Goals from the UN deals with gender inequality. And so I would also add gender economic inequality. That's something that I'm glad that this panel will discuss. I'm so pleased to be here. I look forward to having more discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Winslow. Mary Jo.
Thank you. I'm really thrilled to be here and excited about the topic of women's economic empowerment. At Microsoft, we look a lot at how we can be leaders in diversity, and it's really a challenge. It's a challenge where we haven't gotten to the point where we're fairly representing the population of women in our workforce, and it's something we're working on. But taking a step back, we've talked a lot about the science and technology field, and when you think about what the importance of having women fairly represented in that field means, think about something like the development of artificial intelligence. So that's something that we're on the cutting edge of right now. We are really moving forward in something that will influence our children's generation, their children's generation, and all generations to come. And the representation of women involved in developing that artificial intelligence is unfortunately really low. And part of the reason is that there aren't enough women who are in the workforce or have the training or have the background to enable them to be in the right place at the right time to apply for a job like that. So it's really something that's concerning, because when you think about something like artificial intelligence, you're creating something that's almost like mimicking the brain, something that's going to be making decisions for us, that's going to be thinking about the best way for us to do things. And if we don't have women fairly represented in the development of that, just think of the possible biases and other things that could be a part of that. And that's really concerning, because they'll be hidden. We won't be able to see them. They'll just be integral into the AI itself. And so that's something that Microsoft is really concerned about and caring about, but all of us should be concerned and caring about it. And with that, I think it's incumbent on us as not just a big corporation hiring, although that's important, right? Because for us, when these women do get trained, it's incumbent on us to hire them and bring them into the workforce and try to bring up that balance of gender equity. But also, all of us have talked about being parents. And if you're a parent of boys or girls, it's important to foster the concept of equality, of girls being as able and interested in science and math as boys are. And that starts at a young age. There are a lot of studies that look at where things kind of go wrong for children. And for girls, it's often in that late elementary school, early middle school age, where they may have a teacher who isn't encouraging of them, or who may have a stereotype in their mind that girls don't do math. Maybe you should do art, or maybe you should do something else. So I think for all of us to reinforce as parents, as educators, and as employers, the importance of doing this. And some of the things that we're doing are things that a lot of other companies are doing, but can be done even more so, of fostering interest. We have a DigiGirls program where we go out and have sort of a camp-like environment for girls to learn to code. And the coding is done with Minecraft, which is something that's very appealing to young people. But even President Tsai has done an hour of code. So any of us can do an hour of code, and even can facilitate kids getting interested in those kinds of things. So I think more so than just a company doing something, it's incumbent for each one of us. And to be sponsors, to your point of being an ally, you don't have to be a woman to be an ally or a sponsor, and all of us can sponsor and push forward young women and actually any women to go into this field. So thank you.
Thank you. Katrina?
Thank you, Professor Lin, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real privilege for me to be here with you today talking about a topic that I'm personally very passionate about, both as a female leader in tech, but also as the mother of a young daughter myself. And particularly to be able to do it here in Taiwan, which, as we have rightly acknowledged throughout the course of the morning, is really playing an important leadership role both in Asia as well as the rest of the world when it comes to promoting the advancement of women and their economic empowerment. Unfortunately, if you look across the rest of the world, we're still not there yet in terms of where we need to be, and particularly in industries such as ours, technology. In fact, only 30% of the professionals in science and technology today are women, according to the World Economic Forum. And if you move up the ranks, those numbers get worse. In the US, only 13% of US tech companies have female CEOs, and there are only 10% who are female CTOs. So for us at Uber, as a global technology organization headquartered in the US but operating around the world, including here in Taiwan, we feel we have a very important role to play in helping to promote the advancement of women and economic opportunities for them, both as a hirer of talent, as well as creating a platform that millions of women around the world are able to use to become their own boss and seek their own financial and personal independence. If we look at our hiring, and I'm so pleased and honoured to be joined by some of our amazing women from the Taiwan office here today, we really realise it is critical to our business success that we attract, retain, foster and develop really talented women in our organisation. As Mary Jo said, we need our products, our technologies, our workforces to represent the customers that we serve. And so we are very focused on trying to drive greater engagement and retention and development and leadership opportunities for our women. In fact, here in Taiwan, I'm so pleased that more than 50% of our team here are made up of really bright, smart, hardworking women who are entering new careers, new industries, and the sharing economy, which didn't even exist 10 years ago. And then, of course, as a platform, we really feel we can do a lot to help women around the world to become their own bosses and have their own opportunities to move forward. In fact, we have well over 1 million women around the world who just doing ride sharing alone, driving on the platform and being their own bosses. And a key reason for that, and it has been subject to many studies, is the flexibility. As has been rightly acknowledged by Congresswoman Johnson earlier today, women still bear a disproportionate responsibility for family, childcare, tending to elderly parents. And so for them, flexibility is really the key to be able to unlock some of these economic opportunities that perhaps a traditional labour force job may not enable them to do. And we're doing this at scale around the world. And I'm really pleased to say, even here in Taiwan, we have a super thriving community of female driver partners. And they use our platform for many different reasons. To give you a couple of examples, we have a woman based here in Taipei, UN, and she actually started partnering with us because her mother fell really ill, and a traditional job just would not have given her the flexibility, the time that she needed in order to be able to tend to her mother and take her to medical appointments. And in fact, even if she was offered a higher paying job, a full-time job, she actually would prefer to stay on this platform. Because having a full-time job with full-time hours and the inability to sort of choose when and where she wants to work is going to be a problem for her. We also have young women who are still working out long-term. What would they like to be? What's their career goal in the longer term? In the meantime, they're being their own bosses. They're becoming entrepreneurs. They are making money driving or delivering food on our platform, and then using that to be able to pursue their dreams and think about longer-term full-time labour force employment. We are really proud of the role that we feel we've played here in Taiwan in the 6 years since we've launched here as Uber. And we have served more than 3 million people here who use our platform to get around the city in a more affordable way, an easier way. And that also allows people, particularly women, to move into new geographic areas where they may have more job opportunities as well, which may have traditionally been more difficult to do without the extra transportation options that they have. We have more than 10,000 people here who rely on us for that flexible income that the traditional taxi industries or other full-time jobs just would not provide to them. And we're very committed to investing in the future here in Taiwan as well. Now, some of you may know, particularly those of you who live here, that we are facing some challenges right now. There are some proposed regulatory amendments that we are working through, but that may really limit our ability to keep unlocking the potential of these new economies, like the sharing economy, like ride-sharing activities. We have 10 days left of the consultation period. We remain very committed to working with the government and other stakeholders here to find solutions that fit all and where all can win. We do believe the traditional models and the new models can coexist together. And so we're very much looking forward to that. With such an advanced mindset here in Taiwan, with such a great progressive agenda for women's inclusion in the economy and in technology, we see very bright things ahead, and we very much hope to be part of that journey in future. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura?
I am a professional manager in high-tech company. I think all of you know semiconductor, TSMC. But in Asian technology company, the majority of the leadership position was dominated by men. So actually, in my entire career life, most of the time, I'm the only woman sitting in the meeting room with a bunch of men. And sometimes atmosphere gets a little bit tricky when those men start to talk about a men's talk. But in general, the company I work for don't have gender equality issue. We were fairly treated. But in the STEM industry, the high-tech industry, female participation rate is relatively low. If I look at the company, my company, the female only accounts for less than 20% of the management level. For some function like the legal, HR, finance, we have more female executive than the technology area like R&D, operations, and design functions. Okay. In Asian culture, the society expects women to be successful at home, be a good wife, a good mother, have outstanding children, and support men to be successful, while men are measured by career success. I look at myself. I know myself. I enjoy working in the office than working at home. So I told myself to forget about my gender. When I'm in office, just focus on doing the good things, good job. But when I go home, I want to be a good wife, spending quality time with my 2 children, taking care of my parents, because family success set a good foundation for career success. And I need to figure out how to manage my time more effectively. People often ask me, how do you manage the balance between work and life? My simple answer is, it is impossible. The only thing we can do is to set the right priority at a different stage of your life so that you will not burn out or overwhelmed. Here's what I learned, let me share with you. Number 1, build a supporting system around you. Make your husband a real good partner. My husband is a semiconductor outstanding engineer, and he became a management position. Now he retired. He's a technical farmer. Okay? He's used technology to do farming, very good one. Okay? Also, I leverage my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law lived with me more than 35 years since I got married. You know, most of the women don't like that because the value system is very different. But somehow, I work out very well in my home. And I really feel grateful. If without her, I cannot be where I am today. Okay. And second, learn how to manage pressure. Everybody has their own way in managing their own pressures. In my case, I will try to sort out priorities and create boundaries. I have an inner clock. Sometimes the clock's on work, clock off for families, so I can switch the clock as much as possible. Okay. And talk to someone you can trust. That's important. In my case, it will be my husband. Always have my own time. Don't give all your time to other people. Okay? learn how to say no. Okay? Do exercise and learning. Okay? Third, balance work and life as much as possible. Tell you, I'm a work hard, play hard person. I'm very busy on the weekend because I believe what you do on the weekend is as important as what you do on the working days. Okay. What I do in the weekend is a maintenance time for my body, mind, and soul. I do maintenance on my body, mind, and soul during the weekend. So what I do, I will go out for fresh air. Close to nature is my best interest. I love to spend time with my family and my good friends. I go to church, and I do something interesting. You know, work goes on and on every day, but don't miss the beautiful thing in your life. I observed successful people cultivate their leisure time as serious as cultivating their professional success, because that's where you get the energy and the passion to move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. I had intended to ask everyone to give the audience some words of wisdom, but since Laura did such a great job, I think I'm going to start with that and end with my other more difficult questions. So if I could rotate backwards, Katrina, could you give some words of wisdom for the audience as to how to manage as a professional woman, a successful professional woman?
Well, thank you, Professor. I, too, would not claim to be able to have the magic secret formula or the silver bullet to the answer of how to be able to do it all. I think it does come down to that question of different phases of life, different priorities at different times, and being comfortable with not being able to do 100% of everything at 100% of the time. And so as part of that, making sure that you are sort of nurturing yourself and your energies so that when you are present and engaging in something, you're actually bringing your full self rather than spreading yourself too thin, sort of doing bits and pieces here and there, and which can, I found in my experience, lead to that feeling of a bit of a lack of control in how your life is progressing. And so I'd find that really important. Another thing that really is important to me is the role that we can play in helping to foster the next generation of women leaders. And so that involves really connecting, making networks with those, and seeing how you can help, and using your position where you have managed to achieve a certain level of seniority or a certain level of influence in an organization. That's really powerful, and it can be very helpful for those who are more junior in the organization or wishing to join you. So that's something that I really encourage all women and allies as well to think through as to how they can do that to then help promote others through the system as well. Thank you.
Yes.
So my thinking on this was really kind of personal to me, and it was if I could give my younger self advice, it would be to not restrict yourself in advance, meaning I didn't apply for jobs if I didn't meet every requirement in the job description. I mean, I would look at it and be like, oh, 9 out of 10. Ugh. You know, like, I've just got to get that one more skill. And then I would see who got hired for the job, and I'd be like, that guy, he had like 6, maybe. And so I really think that for all of us, like, just go put yourself out there. And I even found that when I finally learned this and started doing that, I found that even if I didn't get the job, just having your face out there, getting to know the leaders who are hiring, sometimes that can be even better than getting that job you applied for. It could be that they then think of you for the next thing. So I would say just don't limit yourself and put yourself out there. There's really no risk that's worth the offsetting issue that you create for yourself.
Thank you. I just want to say a word before our only male panelists say anything, that it is very valuable to seek advice from men and women alike. And for my very long career in banking, there was hardly any women in my department. So my best advice all came from men. And on top of it, then I entered the cross-strait relations field. I've never had a women advisor at the university. So I just want to say it's very valuable what you will be saying.
Well, that's pressure. Well, that's pressure now. Well, I guess what I would say, and you took what I was actually going to say, because what I've learned is that when someone applies for a job, women would like to look at 10 out of 10. Men will think that if 2 is out, that if they can do 2, then they qualify. And so it's a different mindset. So what has happened, and with organizations that I am part of, we limit the number of qualifications that you need, because putting more has been a stumbling block. But what I would share is that it's very important that it's very important to get into the pipeline, because what you may not be aware of is that most of the positions that you see are those in power today. In 5 or 10 years, there's going to be a transition. There's a transition that always takes place. And it's important that you be in that shift so that when that transition takes place, you naturally will shift into those positions. And so if I had any advice for my daughter or for my wife or for my sisters, make sure that you seek out opportunities, but along the way, look forward to know that the positions, those who are in positions right now, men or women, in about 10 years or so, there's going to be a transition shift. And so you ask yourself, do I want to be in that position? So you should have the qualifications or have the networks or seek out the mentorships so that when that shift happens, you have a likelihood of shifting into those positions. The truth of the matter is we cannot take these jobs with us. We have a limited time in terms of being able to be in these seats. C-suites, what have you, there's a limited time. And your time is coming. You're going to be shifted into these seats. So I just want to encourage you to know that these seats will be open, just like out in front. The challenge is to make sure that you're in that position to get into one of these seats as well.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I really loved the previous two panelists' advice, because I was at West Point last Monday, just 8 days ago, and we had several female ambassadors come speak in closed-door meeting. And after dinner, the ambassador said, now let's have some questions. After several rounds of only men asking questions, and this is very senior analyst conference, the ambassador says, that's it. I only will answer questions from women. And the pressure was really on. We were still having dessert. But then she says, I know what's happening. All these men are raising their hands before they even have a question. And the women are thinking, do I have the perfect question? And so they're going to miss it. And so she stood there in silence, waiting for us to raise our hand. So I begrudgingly raised my hand and started thinking about the question as I was raising my hand. Anyway, thank you. Please, Maren.
I think that's perfect advice. One thing that I've found is, and something, something I really focus on is making sure I maintain my sense of self, and I continue to invest in myself and develop that. I think as women, kind of like what you were alluding to and what has been alluded to on the panel, is you try to fit a role, or you try to fit what you think is expected of you. And over time, you can lose that sense of self. And as you lose that, you become almost more robotic than actually a person and somebody that people can relate to. So I find that continuing to be relatable, make sure you listen to others, care about others, and invest in them is something that has been part of my success in making sure that you take the time to develop yourself and continue to invest in yourself such that you can give back to the job that you're trying to do.
Thank you. Jane.
Part of being last is everyone's said what you would have liked to have said. But one thing that I think is common in all the comments that you just heard from my other panelists is something that I heard when I was starting my career, when I was just a young attorney working in the legislature. and that is one of my mentors, a female mentor, said, you know, women often think about our looks and how we can compete and how do we look, but the best look and the best thing that you can do for yourself is have confidence. And I think the themes that we've heard today all tied, whether it's to be self-aware or whether it is to be in that seat in the front, is having the confidence that even if the job that we're applying for is not the ideal job, that it is going to lead to opportunities in the future and that we can do it. So I would just urge everyone here to have that look of confidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. So from the personal, I thought we'll go into some abstract questions, and we'll start with Jane this time. So women play a larger role in politics in some societies than others. Using the United Nations Development Program Gender Inequality Index, Taiwan will be ranked #1 in Asia and #8 in the world, primarily because of political participation, with 38% of the parliamentarians women. United States is only a follower in this regard, but recently there has been positive changes where there is a record number of women in Congress and more diversity among presidential candidates, including more women and the first Taiwanese American men. Why has Taiwan been more successful? What are the factors that enable and obstruct the expansion of women's role in political life everywhere around the world, whether in Taiwan, in the region, or United States, or any other country you can think of? Jane.
That's a very good question. As I mentioned, that part of my career, just when I first started, was actually in politics, not being a politician, but working for politicians. And I think that one of the challenges, I think, for and the reason that Taiwan is successful is the unique challenge that Taiwan has right now, obviously, of your diplomatic status. And so you've had to exceed, you have had to prove yourself equal to all those other countries in terms of, in my case, in my sector, the environment. Taiwan is a leader when it comes to environmental protection. And right now, the challenge is to be able to show to the world that Taiwan's leadership in the area, in my area, in the environment. And so I think that part of, for women, the challenge that we have, again, is being able to have that confidence to be able to demonstrate, I think, for us, that we can be in powerful positions, whether it's the CEO of Jenny May or whether it's the president of Taiwan.
Thank you. Maren.
Thanks. So I think in the United States, I'll speak to the United States. You know, it's fantastic to see more women in office, more women running for office. And I think what's always been a bit of an inhibitor for seeing more women in office is the fact that in the United States, there's such a spectacle around politics, and there's such a magnifying glass on women that run for office that often, you know, if they have jobs or have families and they're looking to protect that and protect the privacy of it, it's hard to put themselves out there, and it's hard to have the confidence that they need to do so. So I think we're starting to see, and it's happening in record numbers in an incredibly encouraging way, more and more women thinking that, okay, I can do this, and continue to do everything that I'm trying to do as a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and things that continue to be important to them.
Thank you. Winslow.
And I will also piggyback on what I see within the U.S. When we look at education, I think it starts with education. It starts with confidence. What we're seeing more in terms of women are starting to see themselves in various roles. And it's not just in the traditional roles, but now all the opportunities are really there. But also, we need to have more women be up front and to lead, because if you look at the university level, most universities, when you look at the demographics, I think it's more than 50% women. And so when you look at who's being educated and who's being groomed for the leadership, that if we let things play out the way they should play out, it's a natural, once again, shift that you'll see more women in all in all levels. And so that's what we hope to see, and that's what we need to see, because when we think of bridging the gap of inequality, when we think of creating an economy and unleashing an economy that works for everyone, we need to have women leaders. We need to have that leadership. When we think of creativity, right now, in terms of science and technology, we've been skewed from a man's point of view, right? From a boy's point of view. I think it's important that as we enter into the fourth industrial revolution, that when we unleash creativity, we need to have more women stepping up and being the leaders in terms of what problems need to be solved and how they should be solved. And so that's why I'm so excited to be among this panel, because I think that the future is very, very bright.
I just want to add for the next three panelists, I want to broaden my question, even though it's about political life. But what about other societies, other sectors of society, such as the private sector, civil society, and academia? Why are some societies more successful than others?
I would say that I agree with the holding out countries like Taiwan that are, I mean, I think that the success, the percentage of women in various positions is an indicator of what's going on behind the scenes, because it's not just something that naturally happens, or it would be the same universally. It would be the same percentage based on the percentage of women in the population. So I think from the perspective of what I understand about Taiwan, it seems to me that that is really something that must be happening better than it's happening in a lot of other countries. And so I think each of us as individuals, as parents, as leaders in whatever environment we're in, should just stay mindful of that, and should stay mindful of what we see in especially younger people coming up. Don't have them think that they need to just emulate what we did. You know, think of how they can be that much better than we were and that we have been. And so I tried to do that for my daughter, and it remains to be seen how successful that was. But I do think it's incumbent on us.
I agree with you very much on that, Mary Jo. Some of you may be familiar with an actor named Gina Davis. She's created an institute called the Gina Davis Institute, which studies women and leadership and their participation in business and academic life and other fields. And they have this very clear indication from research saying that if she can see it, she can be it. And the view there is that you need to see strong, visible female leaders in order to recognize that this is a viable path for you. So for our children, our young women, they've got someone to look to and say, actually, that is for me. Unlike many of us, as Mary Jo rightly said earlier, who said, well, maybe that's not me, maybe I can't stick my hand up for that role. Once you see somebody who is like you in that seat, then you are feeling much more empowered to be able to see that as a viable option for yourself. And so I think the places that do this very well, where they do have much more successful examples of tangible female role models, senior visible female leaders, it's no coincidence we see those markets tend to do much better in terms of general economic, academic, political involvement and participation by women. You know, look here at Taiwan, I don't think it's any coincidence that we have a very impressive female president, and then we have almost 40% of our lawmakers here are women as well. In places where there is very little visible leadership of women, you see very few women coming through the ranks and seeing this as a path for them. So I think that's really critical, and I do think that's why it is very incumbent, as Mary Jo rightly says, on those who have achieved a certain level of seniority. Be very visible in that leadership and encourage others to recognize this too could be for them.
And I would just say thank you for all of our guests coming to Taiwan, because we can see you, so there is a future. So if you can see it, you can be. And thank you for that coming. Laura.
Okay, I think in general, the Taiwan's environment to have gender diversity is improving. There's two areas. One is the systematic area. I think in the working place, for example, a lot of companies start to pay attention to female. Okay? Take my company as example. Recently, our chairman told me there's not enough female manager in our company. What do we do? And we do an analysis. It does show less female manager compared to men. So we start to think, how do we improve it? I think there are a few prongs. First one is you have to start from recruiting. Because we're a high-tech company, we need a lot of engineer. When you look for engineer, you look for men. Okay? And there's a pool of university graduate people. They go to military, and if they come to the company, high-tech company, they can work for 4 years, and they cannot transfer jobs. So that's kind of stability of recruiting, and that the company to recruit people from that pool, and there's no woman in the pool, the military service. So we need to consciously look for female when we do the recruiting. Another thing is provide a flexibility in working environment. For example, children care. In TSMC, we have 4 kindergarten that are taking care of 500 children. So parents can bring their children to the company, and when they go home, they bring the kids home. So it's very convenient. Okay? The other one is provide a supporting group. We call it female mentor female. Okay? Female need mentor. And in my working place, I often see a lot of younger managers, female, and they have a lot of uncomfortable, lack of confidence, and feel uneasy. But if someone can talk to them and coach them, and it does help very much. Okay? That's my thought. Okay?
Thank you, Laura. But I think Laura should run my panel because she's always ahead of me. She was commenting on how her institution, her company, is making the world a better place for women. That was one of my next questions. So maybe we'll come back to Katrina to ask, what is your institution, company, doing to improve the lives of women working with you?
Sure. I think, as I was saying in my opening remarks, we see our role in this space in multiple ways. Firstly, as an employer of female talent, particularly in engineering and technology, we've done a lot of things to very actively ensure that we are bringing the right sorts of people into the door. And what that requires is things like being thoughtful about job descriptions, making sure you're actually reading those, and are you sending any subtle cues in that as to who or who may not be appropriate to apply for that role? Are we having a diverse slate of candidates who are coming in? Are we having a diverse slate of interviewers on the panel who are making decisions about the people that should join our organization? Are we doing enough to get into those communities at those younger ages of women perhaps studying to ensure that they realize this is a really great place for them to have a lasting and meaningful career, and that technology, science, these are areas for them? And unfortunately, we still see a lag effect. We know that young children can often be socialized into more limited thinking about what might be career paths for them. Even things such as the toys we give children. When we give boys things like microscopes or telescopes, and girls tea sets and doll houses, we're sending them a very subtle but strong message as to this is a path for you and this is a different path for you, and we need to break that. And so as an organization, we are very committed to getting out there into the younger groups as well, Girls Who Code, young girl organizations, STEM initiatives, so that we can build that pipeline for the future that is still honestly limited in technology. And then obviously, as a platform that is used by millions of people around the world, and more than 1 million women in ride sharing alone, many more again who are doing food deliveries, meal deliveries, even freight, then we feel like we are trying to unlock opportunities for them too, that they can see the ability to be able to make money on their own terms, be their own bosses, be their own entrepreneurs. In fact, we know that from research More than 1 in 7 of our female driver partners on the platform actually have their own separate small business. And they use the money they earn through driving on Uber to be able to fund that in the growth stages and keep a steady income stream while they're trying to build business, because as we know, for entrepreneurs, that's a really difficult part. And this is something that can help supplement that and give them further opportunities out in the market. So for us, we want to make good investments in that space for the external women in society who are using our platform in that way. We've partnered with lots of different organizations, the YWCA, we've joined organizations even in the Middle East to try and encourage women, for example, in Saudi Arabia, to now drive on the platform, have some financial and personal independence. And these are activities that were previously foreclosed to women in these places. So we feel that we have an obligation in that space. We are really committed to that, and we do see great effects of making these paths very visible and clear to women that they can be their own bosses and be in control of how and where and when they work.
So I've talked about some of the things that Microsoft has done, but one thing that that I think is an interesting concept is the focusing on women who have left the workforce to have children and then are interested in coming back, but kind of feel foreclosed either because they feel they've been out too long. And this is another thing of, you know, more of women sort of shutting off opportunities for themselves in advance. But they might feel, I've been out for 10 years, I don't know how they do things. When I left, we were doing it a certain way and it's different now. So Microsoft in Japan had started a program there to encourage women to come back into the workforce if that was what they wanted to do, by offering training and especially technology training to have that comfort level with the current technology to allow them to come back. So I would say that in addition to trying to get more children interested in STEM topics, I think just to take the existing workforce and offer opportunities to come back into the workforce is kind of a new thing that we've been working on.
Thank you. Winslow.
One of the things that the International Council of Small Business has done is that, as I mentioned, in June of 2018, we held a high-growth women entrepreneurship session, and it was about 2 meters from here. And it really touched on the fact that it's not enough just to say that you want to have a woman start a small business, but it's about growth. It's about high growth, and what does that mean? And so what we did is that we brought women from New Zealand, from Singapore, from Korea, from Taiwan, together to discuss what are some of the principles or what are some of the basic things that should be known. And because of that, we have what's called the Journal of Small Business Management. We have put out a special issue that's focused on high growth women entrepreneurship. And it's written by some of the leading women entrepreneurs and writers to share their best practices on what should be done, because as we want to be advocates before legislative bodies or policymakers, it's important that you arm yourself with information. It's not enough to say this needs to be done. And so what I would encourage you to do, that if you can get a chance to read the Journal of Small Business Management, this is a great resource because it shares what are some of the best practices. We also, last year, we brought together 100 CEOs, 100 women CEOs in Korea. And this was an extraordinary event because for the first time, you were able to put a face next to a leader of a business, of a high growth business. And once you see someone who is successful, then that strips away all the things, all the can't do's. And so once again, I think it's very important to have role models or to see firsthand who are successful, what have made them successful, and to tap into those principles so that you can share. Thank you.
So at Ginnie Mae, what we've done is I personally have kind of focused on making sure we have women at all levels of the organization and are fairly represented. We have a senior team of about 7 people that when I arrived 2 years ago, none of them were women. I'm proud to say that through a couple of different changes, today that number is about half of our senior leadership team is women. And it really doesn't stop there because we're making sure that women are fairly represented at all levels. And I think we run into an interesting challenge at Ginnie Mae. Like we talked about in the technology field, we experience the same in finance. It's maybe slightly better than technology, but we operate in a field that's predominantly men, and I think we are trying to do all that we can to afford the right training opportunities to get women in the right positions. I think that's step one, to get women in the position. But as somebody who's running the organization and have the support of the administration behind us is to say, to give them the encouragement they need to lead and make decisions. What I have found, I don't know if it's a finance thing, a government thing, or a woman thing, but what I have found is that more often than not, all you have to say is, I have your back, please go do this, and they will then run with it and lead. But without even giving them that quote-unquote cover that they need to know that they'll be protected if something goes wrong, they often are more hesitant to make decisions and move the agency forward. So I've really tried to empower the women that we've put into leadership positions, and I am appreciative for what they do.
Great. Thank you.
So at EPA, and I would say that we do two things, and they're very practical. The one is an important component for women is a flexible work schedule, particularly if they want to take care of children, et cetera. And so the two things that we do at EPA, and part of this is also in the federal government in the United States, is there is something called a flexible work week. So we encourage telecommuting so that employees who want to work from home, particularly with technology now, that they can call in or they can FaceTime, et cetera, they can work from home as long as obviously they deliver on whatever needs to be done. And the second thing is job sharing. So for a lot of women who have just had children, they don't want to necessarily come back to work full time. They still want to have enough time to be able to take care of the children. So for example, in our Office for General Counsel, there are attorneys that will job share. And frankly, it's a benefit for employers or for managers because even though they're job sharing, we get probably more than 50% of their work. So those are two practical things that we're doing in terms of a flexible work schedule. The other thing, as a manager, and a manager who's a woman of diversity, we have an organization in EPA of women diverse managers who essentially mentor other young women who want to take on career management positions. So we train them on things like interviewing skills or applying for a senior executive position in federal government as a way to give back and to do that networking.
Thank you, Jane. That's really great to hear about all the advancements and the improvement in workplace. I want to ask something that's more general that I think many of you probably ask from time to time. Some people have argued that women on average may be better suited for leadership today than men. Tina Brown, the former editor of both Vanity Fair and The New Yorker, who also founded the Women in the World Summit, wrote a piece in New York Times just a few days ago about how women leaders might save the world since men are not seemingly doing so. Do you agree that in today's world, women have skills and personality that make them better leaders than men? Or are there aspects of leadership where men still have the advantage? Or is it impossible to generalize? So we'll start with Jane.
I think that for women, and I'm just going to, again, take my field in terms of the environment, I think I described for you some of the issues that we're facing in the environment in terms of water quality, air quality, and a lot of it stems from the fact that we want to protect children's health. And we, by nature, as women, are more nurturing, more caring in terms of the effects of, in my case, the environment, again, upon our young. And so, as I alluded to in my opening remarks, 40% of the female leadership, or the leadership of EPA, have been females. And I don't think that that's by accident. I think that women have demonstrated in terms of our career that one of the reasons that we're passionate about the environment is because we understand that the future for our children and for our planet depends on being able to address those fundamental problems that are challenging the world right now in terms of air quality, water quality, et cetera. And I think that women, by our nurturing nature, have the intrinsic ability, I think, to be able to want to address those issues and understand the impact, as I alluded to in my opening remarks. While we are very successful here in terms of our various fields, I know that the vast majority of women around the world are very challenged and are right now suffering from the effects of environmental pollution. And so part of my passion for the environment is not only to protect the environment for the folks in the United States, but also to protect the environment and the conditions around the world in terms of whether they live in Asia or Africa or Latin America. So, thank you.
I think it is a bit impossible to say. I don't think there's the right formula for the right leadership, for the right company, the right situation, the right political dynamic. What I do strongly believe in is a fair shot in equality for women to have a seat at the table and to be able to openly express their views and lead in the way that we need women to lead in this world. I think it's more about having the right people in the right seats and the right qualities, whether that comes from a man or a woman, shouldn't necessarily be looked at from a gender standpoint. It should be looked at from a skill set and an ability to lead. So I think fairness would be an amazing place to get to because I don't think we're fully there today.
And I would also second that as well. I think it's important to get the opportunity. Many of us know that knowledge is not localized to one particular gender, just like leadership skills also aren't really localized. I will say that with women, women tend to be the first teachers, and so that adds that may add a leg up in terms of being able to teach someone who is very vulnerable, and of course, because you see them in that state, you're more patient, you're more it's quick to it's thinking longer term as well. And I think in terms of leadership, yes, we want to get things done quickly, and yes, we want to. Sometimes we feel like we have to write people off. But I think having that longer view and knowing where someone has come from, I think that helps. But once again, I think it's important to have the opportunity to lead, and that's what I think that's what we need more of.
I would say that having a fair system all the way up to the point of becoming leaders would allow for that level playing field to choose the leader that's best. And it may not be a woman, but that woman should feel she had an equal shot at it. I would expand it to just diversity in its broadest sense. I mean, I would like to see people who have physical challenges be equally represented, people who, just across the spectrum of things that we don't really have today. And I think that's where we would have the optimal leadership to really have the perspective of that broad spectrum.
I couldn't say it any better, Mary Jo. I think I very much agree with you. I think, being a data-driven person, it's difficult for us to say because leadership across the world has tended to be pretty similar. It's tended to be men who are affluent, so not from a diversity of socioeconomic status. They tend to be from a group that happens to be, the majority in that particular region, whether that's culturally, racially, or otherwise. It has not represented people of different physical abilities. And so, we haven't got a lot by way of testing as to what makes great leadership and what would make the difference. But certainly, when we're working together and including when everyone can be their best selves and contribute, then the real, true leadership qualities can shine. And that does take effort to make sure that we are not inadvertently excluding people, that we are actively bringing people in so that people are not self-selecting out, so that the people who are making decisions as to who might be the next leader of that political party, etc., are actually considering all the amazing array of talent in front of them and not just defaulting to what is the traditional that they're used to. And there's so much research out there to show that more diverse teams just always perform better. They get much better business outcomes. They actually have much more effective decision making. They usually get the answer right far more than when we have much more homogenous groups. And so when it comes to world leadership, I think breaking down that homogenous syndrome that we see among world leaders is super important for us.
I think today's women's education is they're much better, slightly better than men, even in the science and technology area. I think the thing is, if they given an equal opportunity in the workplace and they were encouraged, they can do a very good job in all areas, with only a few exceptions that you need a very strong physical strength. Yeah. A female has a nature of great empathy and caregiving, more sensitive to people, and more patient. So they are a good fitter for those areas that need those special characteristics. But I see no constraint if the environment and encouragement is there. Female can do many things.
Thank you. So it's wonderful to hear the panelists overwhelmingly thinks that equity is very important. Fairness creates an environment where we can all thrive. Whether the outcome means more women are in certain jobs is less certain, but certainly, according to Jane, we will have a cleaner environment if we have more women leaders. And that I would fully concur. I don't have a son, but I think daughters are much cleaner. But I also want to touch upon the theme that Katrina talked about, which is inclusiveness. Recently, I saw 2 shows. One is John Quincy Adams, in which several young women play JQA. And I was very impressed. And then I saw King Lear, where basically the leading actor was a deaf man on Broadway in New York. And throughout the show, he had somebody sign him while he was acting. At first, I was very confused, and then I became extremely impressed, again, encouraged by inclusiveness and diversity, which I think that Taiwan is showing the world. It is also capable of looking forward. Now, on that note, since it's so positive, certainly we understand the world actually still has there are a lot of obstacles in the world facing young women, older women today. So I like to ask the question, and starting from Laura, about do women face greater opportunities and encounter harder glass ceilings in some sectors compared to others? And what are those glass ceilings? Why is this so? How can these remaining barriers be overcome, whether it's in government, private sector, civil society, or academia?
People ask, does glass ceiling really exist? I think it does exist in some area if the organization do not pay attention to cultivate a culture to have the gender diversity. But more oftentimes, I think, especially for Asian female, I think a glass ceiling is in your heart. You always feel, I cannot. When you're given the opportunity, sometimes you will say, why me? I'm not good enough. What about my families? What will other people look at me? So I will give you my little story. When the founder of TSMC, Dr. Morris Chang, he asked me to be the CFO in 2003. He asked me to have lunch with him. And I gave him 5 reasons I should not be a CFO. The first one is I don't have a Western education. How can I run a multinational company? My English proficiency is probably not enough. And being a so famous company, you have to deal with the government. There's no government here, right? And I hate politics. So I gave him 5 reasons. You know, he smoked his pipe. He sat there quietly, smoked his pipe. He said, "You have your strengths, Laura. You just be yourself. I'm not asking to be other people." So that was kind of very inspiring for me. So when we get an opportunity, I think we should change the mindset. We should say, why not give a try? I'm not perfect, but I can do better each day. It's going to be fun, especially when you break the glass ceiling and you prove yourself, it will be fun. Thank you.
I think that was so well said. I do believe that some of what we may see as the glass ceiling still existing is partially on folks self-selecting out those who don't feel those opportunities are available for them. People negotiating against themselves before they've even had a chance to get at that table. But there are still systematic issues that we need to solve for in certain industries, and technology is clearly one of them. Again, only 30% of the professionals in this space being women doesn't seem right when you look at the general demographics of our society. And so it is incumbent upon organisations and senior leaders in organisations to ensure they are doing everything they can to actively foster the development and advancement and promotion of women in their organisations. There are still too many places where it is the woman is the only female in the room compared to a table of men. I, in fact, sit on the board of 2 public companies outside of Uber, both in technology space, publicly listed. On one, I am the only female board member. On the other, I'm one of 2. We still have a long way to go. And so it really takes deliberate effort and focus to make sure we are taking away any of those barriers that might exist for bringing women along for this journey and moving up the line. As President Tsai said, we have a duty in this space. You know, Taiwan's done a great job in removing barriers for women to have employment here, but many places around the world have not. Many companies could still be doing a lot better. And so I believe until we address some of those structural issues, where we're making sure we really are focusing on getting proper, diverse talent into our organisations, then that ceiling will still be something that organisations need to deal with. It's not just individuals not putting their hands up, it's the organisations needing to reach them up as well.
I agree with you, Katrina. I would say, one, I think there still exists something of a glass ceiling. I think there's some good intention to try to rectify that. One thing I would say is that for people who don't have a leadership opportunity provided through what they're asked to do, create your own leadership opportunity. I mean, I think that's one of the things that women may not step up to do, but for example, you see something that needs to be done, do it. Just go out there. It will be recognized. People will see. You'll get a reputation as a person who can get things done if you just take that. You just give yourself leadership. Like, don't wait for someone to bestow it upon you.
When I think of the glass ceiling, I think, especially for women, I think it's, you know, whether you say that it's a glass ceiling, I view it many times as that women should have the allow the ability to fail. And I say that because with men, on average, men can fail, can bankrupt companies, and they'll be given a chance after chance after chance. Many times you don't see that with women, right? That if maybe there's an opportunity to break through the ceiling, maybe not, but there are not a lot of chances to fail. And what we have in society is that a woman would be compared to another successful woman. So every time those in power will say that they're seeking to have another woman like so-and-so and who is a superstar. But we don't hold men to the same standard for them to be given the same type of opportunity. So to be a CFO or to be in the C-suite, you have to walk on water if you're a woman. But if you're a man, maybe not. And so I think we need to get to a point at some place, just like in startups where they say that you haven't achieved unless you failed. We have to allow women to fail and still have the opportunity to still have the opportunities. We don't have that yet, and until we have that, I think we still have that barrier.
My point was women shouldn't be afraid of failure. And so it ties directly into what you were saying. And I thought about saying something else, but I said, I think that's actually still my absolute answer is, as it relates to a glass ceiling, this concept of negotiating against ourselves or being too afraid to fail such that we don't do what we think is the right thing to do or stay true to ourselves actually holds us back in a way that if we had the confidence that you spoke to and the ability to make strong decisions and stick to them and not be afraid of backing away when things get really hard. When things don't go right, there's always a plan B. And if you have a right team, and that touches on kind of making sure you're building teamwork, and we haven't really talked a lot about that, but I think it's something that's very important. There's always a plan B. You can always move forward another way. So this fear of failure, I think, is kind of within us, and it's natural. But we need to be allowed to fail, and we need to be allowed to kind of get back up and demonstrate our leadership capabilities. So I think that's absolutely something. And furthermore, I think we also talked about it earlier on the panel, is the duty lies with everyone on this panel and everyone in the room to continue to have the confidence to lead and to pave the way for the people that are either moving along with us or are taking leadership after we cede our positions. Making sure we're opening doors where we can for other people, doing panels like this, continuing to train women, continuing just to demonstrate by leading ourselves is really important. And I think that's how you build momentum and continuing to break the glass ceiling.
Thanks. And along with the ability to not to be afraid to fail, I think it's also not to be afraid to be outraged as well in terms of injustices that we may see, in terms of inequality. I think that while we have made progress in terms of trying to break down that glass ceiling, as was mentioned by one of the panelists, quite often we still see ourselves as minorities when it comes to events. Not to call out something, but just yesterday I was at an event that commemorated the Taiwan Relations Act. And all the VIPs that came up to speak at the very end and to get their photo shoots were all men. There were no women. And so I think that what we have to do is realize that while we are breaking down barriers, that we are being inspired by other women like the President Tsai, that we still have a long way to go, and that we collectively need to call out when we think that we need to be represented at the table and to be a part of that ceiling going forward.
Thank you. Keep the mic, Jane. I'm going to have one last parting words for all of you to respond to. But thank you. Not be afraid of failing, to take risks, and to imagine yourself in those important positions. And very importantly, don't be a perfectionist. And I think I very much echo all of the panelists' thoughts. Women are just so good. They're so perfect. That oftentimes I see my students both in the United States, in Hong Kong, in Beijing, in Taipei, where I've taught the last 12 months, all these places. I want to shake my women students and say, you are great. You just have to not be afraid of being outraged. Get on the stage and let us take a picture of you. So that's what we're doing today to highlight this issue, and so really appreciate the advice. And I thought as a parting word, again, Laura gave me the inspiration since she talked about her mother-in-law. Can you name one person that you're grateful for in your life? It could be an imaginary person, a real person, anybody that has really given you the inspiration to be where you are today. Jane.
I guess the person that I'd like to highlight is a person not necessarily in my life, in my personal life, but someone I think who demonstrated to me the inspiration, and that is Chief Justice Ruth Ginsburg, Ruth Gaither Ginsburg. For those of you who have seen that movie, you know what I speak of, the fact that she was one of the few female attorneys when she started in her career, the battles that she had to struggle on the basis of her sex, and the advocacy that she led right now was an inspiration to me in my law career. Fortunately, by the time I became a lawyer, 25% of my class was females. But I know in watching her own career, the struggle she had. So that's who I would identify.
For me, it's more personal in that it's my grandmother. The woman was, as many people, the quote would say, is tough as nails. She had a personality and she stuck through it. And she's always the voice in my head in making decisions.
And where is she now?
Oh, she's passed away.
It's my 10th grade teacher. She was very, very encouraging. You know, it was a point where as you're going through puberty and you don't know where you should be, but she took me under her wing. She encouraged me to be a good student. She saw my potential. She saw something in me that I didn't see. And so I still think back to the fact that because she saw where I could go, that became the wings beneath my wings. And so I'm always thankful for what she did.
So in thinking about this, I would have to say it would be my father, who had 4 daughters. He was a military officer and was just so encouraging of us that we could do anything, that it almost, I mean, I felt as though there's a phrase that some people use that's fake it till you make it kind of thing. I felt that I had to kind of fake that I was as good as he thought I was to like just get to the point where I could really feel confident in myself. So I think the confidence that a parent can give is just really kind of so foundational.
And for me, I'm going to take the easy way and say there's so many who inspire me, and particularly women. I look in my own circle at my mother, who overcame a lot of challenge as a child. She was a refugee in the war and moved to a new country to create a better opportunity for myself and my brother, and that would have been incredibly difficult to live through, and I've never had to live through a challenge like that, and so I'm always grateful for that and inspired by that. And then I look at other women in my life who I've had the privilege of working with, who have really helped me along the way, who have been sponsors for me, who go out on a limb, are willing to advocate for me and get me connected to more senior people, get me visibility and leadership opportunities. And that really is a big part of what's helped me move further up the ranks in my career. And so that's why I feel that responsibility as well to pay it forward to others, because I personally have benefited from that. And then lastly, by others who I don't know, who have gone before us. RBG, of course, amazing role model, but you know, the suffragettes. You know, imagine being those women who had to be the first to try to fight for the right to actually vote and participate in civic society, and who are feeling that the boot on their neck. You know, the amount of suffering and hardship they went through to make a much better world for the rest of us, to enjoy the privileges of democracy, of economic contribution, participating in society. That is something I get a lot of inspiration from.
Talk to my mother-in-law. All right. It's very helpful, my mother-in-law. Actually, one person, I mentioned his name, that he's the founder of TSMC, Dr. Morris Chang. He's such a high-demanding people. So it is he that makes us can excel ourselves. That's very inspiration for me.
Thank you. I think that's really, really inspiring. One of the things that I hope to do is I'm writing a book in many years' time, I don't know when that will be, after teaching in the United States and in Asia, broadly speaking, for the last 10 years. The book will be called Educating Asians and Educating Americans. And one of the big things that I've discovered in the last few years is one chapter has to be about educating women. and comparing women in the West and in the East. So I'm fascinated by all of you who have stories about who have inspired you and what makes you tick. And in the spirit of connectiveness, which the organizer have told me many times, I would like to share with you my email. It's shirley@virginia.edu, Shirley as in Shirley Temple, the little girl dancing, at Virginia, the state.edu. If you have a short story to share, please share it with me, and feel free to come up to speak to our speakers. It's too bad we don't have a public Q&A, but I take this opportunity unashamedly to thank my mother, who's at 80 years old, still said to me last night, "You're going to speak after the president? Well, you have to take me. You have no idea what you're doing." I said, "Mom, I'm just a moderator," but I think that behind every great man and woman, there is a very important woman. And I'm reminded of this because I stay at a hotel called Thayer Hotel at the West Point. And the tour guide showed me the hotel by starting the story that General MacArthur, when he attended the West Point, his mother moved right to the hotel and stayed in the hotel for 4 years, changing her room every year to make sure she could use a binocular to look at her son's room and check when he goes to sleep. So the term helicopter parent didn't start in Taiwan or anywhere else near us. It started long ago, and I think be reminded that either you're a great woman or you're a great woman behind many, many wonderful people that you support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Lin, and all of our fantastic panelists. That was a really excellent discussion, and I think we learned a lot. I especially appreciated accepting failure, because if this summit failed, it would have been on us. So thank you very much. It is now going to be time for lunch. You can get your lunch in the back of the room. And can everyone please try be back in the room for their breakout sessions? There are 4 different breakout sessions, no later than 1:20. That way we can start the panels on time.
非常感谢主持人与各位精彩的这个讲者，为我们带来精彩的讨论与分享。接下来是午餐时间，请工作人员协助引导贵宾至贵宾室与贵宾区用餐。另请各位现场与会嘉宾依您报到的这个下午所选的场次，至各分场先行签到或显示 QR code 进行报到。我们会在各分场内提供简易餐点供大家享用。